I'm so excited to be with you for this mini series on higher level sexuality. I can't wait to share this with you. I talk a lot about the shadow side of sexuality, but I haven't yet painted the full picture on the higher level of what's available to us in terms of sexuality. And now spending time on the shadow side is obvious, right? In terms of the fact that humanity is really stuck in the lower realms, right? The darker realms right now when it comes to sexuality. So that's where the most help is needed in terms of most of humanity, right? And yet, I also want to show you once you do that deep healing work and you're able to start to come up and out into the heights of sexuality, which has everything to do, as you listen to me talk, with actually facing the shadow, healing those wounds, clearing our baggage, so that there's space for us to be able to trust to open. Okay. So we're going to actually start this call just with our eyes closed. And I want you to put your hands on your heart because we're really going to be working with the heart space today in this particular video. This is a key right from the beginning that higher level sexuality has everything to do with the integration of the lower sacral center and the heart. And I'll be getting more into this, but just notice if for some reason it's hard for you, or maybe you don't feel like closing your eyes and doing this. What I'm doing with you right here is I'm actually getting you out of the mind so much and more into the heart and into the body. And we're not going to be here for a long time, maybe just another minute or two, but notice if you have resistance or maybe you want to skip forward to the content part of this. And this is just information for you that maybe it would be incredible for you to actually do more of the somatic and the heart work. This higher level sexuality also has everything to do with getting into the heart and the body, and it has nothing to do with the mind. And so this is the first kind of key and indicator that I'm giving you here. So just take a moment to take a few deep breaths and start to really let yourself land here for this video. I'm not even sure how long it's going to be, but just trust that you're here right now. See if you can open your heart to receive this information in a way that you must know that my intention is always to assist, to support, to help. And sexuality can actually be a very charged topic for a lot of people. I really understand. And there's so many materials that I want to share with you. You'll have plenty to work with over this month as we're working with higher level sexuality. And so just see if you can really open your physical body, open your heart. Maybe just ask yourself to be able to receive this information. And if there's anything that gets triggered inside of you, that's just information on where a little bit more healing, attention is needed internally. And so actually put one hand on your heart, one hand on your sacral area, and just see if you can start to deepen the breath just a little bit so that you're starting in the belly and then pulling it up into the heart. And you don't have to overthink it, but just taking that, notice how taking a full inhale actually starts in the belly. And it also includes the heart. And so for those of you who have done breath work with me before, it's a two-part inhale. The first one is into the belly and the second one's into the heart. We're not going to do that technique right now, but I just want to illustrate that it really is about the integration of these two centers. And so just doing belly breaths wouldn't really be a full, complete inhale. And just breathing from the chest up here is also not going to give you a full breath. And so just see if you can just relax your body just one level deeper before we get in. And even just take the energy, if your mind is still going, just take that energy that's up in the head and just imagine that it's really just going down into the heart, into the body. With this higher level sexuality, it's really about being able to make this shift. It's profoundly connected to what we'll talk about today. And so just make an intention for yourself that you'll listen with an open heart. Know that you can come back to this anytime. And also just make a note for yourself in terms of if anything comes up as I teach and talk today, just make a note. This mini series is actually going to be driven by your questions, your comments, and what you want me to go deeper with. And so just make a note of that now. And then you can slowly just come back, open your eyes. Okay, so thank you for being with me. That's actually such a beautiful way to open this because what I'm about to share with you has nothing to do with an intellectual understanding. It has nothing to do with the mind. Okay, so higher level sexuality is really about sharing a sexual exchange with a partner in a deep monogamous relationship. It's kind of wild that I have to say that, but in this day and age, with all of the sexual exploration and everything, which has its place, right? People need to explore, they need to break free maybe from traditional upbringings and things like that. But, this kind of sexuality it's sort of a third way. And this is kind of how I want to start because um, where I see humanity, not just in terms of relationships, but also with sexuality, there's sort of like um, these two stages that we've gone through, right? With sexuality, there used to be quite a bit of shutdown and shame and suppression. And then the pendulum has swung to this other side of hypersexuality, anything goes, and neither of these extremes are what I'm talking about. I'm actually talking about a third way where there's no shame and we understand that sexuality is our birthright, right? To be able to share this with somebody with deep love and respect. But it's also not something um, that we want to just share with everybody without discernment, right? Sexuality is sacred, it's holy, and I feel like this is sort of like an integration, actually, right? It's an integration, which is very, very key in my work. And so, in terms of this higher level of sexuality, it almost becomes available to you automatically when you start to do your shadow work, when you start to do your sexual shadow work. That was the whole point in when I wrote the article on Substack called Towards Sexual Sovereignty. That takes you step by step through how you can start to turn towards yourself and your wounds, your conditioning, your programming when it comes to sexuality to be able to really cleanse and clear anything that is not truly yours out of your field, in addition to taking the time that you need to heal any toxic shame that's wrapped up in your sexuality, including any trauma around sexuality. Okay, so the shadow work has to come first in order for us to be able to actually come up and out and ascend into the higher realms of sexuality. And so this happens on an individual level, and it also will happen on a collective level, right? And so right now we are in a dark night. We're in a dark night, and the highest possibility for us here, what we're being invited into, is to be able to shine the light on our shadows so that we can integrate, so that we can heal, and then that we can grow and evolve from that place. And so, incredible sexuality in terms of how you can really, I don't even want to use the word use because it's not about using, but it is about understanding that sexuality, just like the vehicle of a relationship, a sexual exchange with a partner in a container of deep love is incredibly healing and also expansive. It really is sexuality that's experienced way beyond the physical. This is sexuality that we can experience on a physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual level. It can really take us to connection with the all, the one. And so when you have a sexual exchange with your partner, where there's trust, where there's respect, where there's love, and where both of you feel safe to be able to let down your masks, to be able to engage in true intimacy, which means, especially with sexuality, that you are going to be okay with vulnerability. Sexual exchange, when it gets into the higher realms, is all about being comfortable, being metaphorically naked and literally naked with your partner to be able to let all parts of you be seen. So, obviously, as I say this, what comes up for many of you is, do I love myself fully? Do I love all of my parts? That's physically and, in terms of the parts work, the shadow work, the psyche. Do you love and accept all parts of yourself? Now, nobody has to be 100% perfect, but without a doubt, sexuality and this kind of an exchange, when used consciously with a partner, will show you the areas that you still need healing. And that's a beautiful thing. Nobody has to be perfectly healed or, 100% perfect with this. Just like we work with relationships as a vehicle for healing, growth, and evolution, sexuality is the same. But what I can tell you is when you do your inner work to be able to love and accept yourself enough to be able to share yourself wholeheartedly with another person, which looks like eye contact, which looks like presence and connection, which looks like when you find yourself really in the head thinking about other things and not being fully present, that you're going to try your best to come back to full presence with your partner. These are huge. Now, there's a lot to be said about Tantra, and the communities can be a little bit seedy out there. I've definitely, been around some of those, right? And so I'm not telling you to go, jump into those. There's a lot of, unfortunately, what happens is there's a lot of shadow and addictions running in those. But if you can tune into the real highest intention of some of that. When they do things like eye gazing, why do they do that, right? Why do they do some of these practices before engaging with each other sexually? Because it has to do with building that connection, that intimacy, that love has everything to do with opening the heart, right? First. And so this kind of higher level sexuality, it has nothing to do with only staying on the physical level of pleasure and sensation. That's part of it. Okay. We're definitely not bypassing that. And physical attraction is part of it. But this kind of sexuality is this deep, deep connection with open-hearted love, care, and connection with each other. So just think about this, right? With women in the bedroom, we can't fully open and surrender, right? And fully receive our man if we don't feel safe. I'm not just talking about physically safe, I'm more so nowadays talking about emotional safety. How is the relationship at large going, right? Sexuality is actually what happens in the bedroom is a microcosm of the relationship as a whole. Okay, there's a lot to work with here. When women don't feel safe, they're not going to be able to fully open in the bedroom, and men will be able to feel it. If there's any performative stuff going on, that's also a deep thing to look at as well for both men and women. This has nothing to do with performance. It has nothing to do with that. Has nothing to do with techniques and technical, expertise or whatever that is, or toys or fetishes. In fact, I have a lot to say about kinks and fetishes. Actually, the core of that has to do with a lot of wounding and trauma that people are just repeatedly getting off on. So that's actually part of the shadow. This kind of higher level sexuality has everything to do with deep exchange, connection, intimacy with starting with the heart. And when you can have a sexual exchange with somebody, when you're deeply in love with that person, I think a lot of people can relate to this. It's vastly different than when you are just, treating sex casually and having a hookup when it really is just about your pleasure and there's a lack of consideration for the other person. And so, what's happening right now in terms of the shadow side and some of the shadow forces that are kind of working to pull humanity down into the lower realms, especially with sexuality, because it's very easy to hijack people this way. But what's happening, as you'll start to notice, is that with pornography, for example, or even just the casual sex and the promiscuity, what's happening is that they are severing the heart, right? The love from the sexual exchange. And so it's all of these things are devoid of love. So just please notice that because that is really when that lust frequency, when you take it really down into the darkest place, that's all about extraction. That's all about getting, like getting, what do they call it? Like just getting mine, right? Like just caking. And of course, you can really take that down into very dark realms, right? But the spectrum of that is where humanity is kind of in that realm right now. And it's not true higher level sexuality has nothing to do with extraction, with trying to dominate, control, get yours, right? Has nothing to do with that. In fact, when you can understand that sexuality in its highest form is actually meant to be the highest expression of love between two people, when you feel in a partnership that you can't fully show your love to another person, right? We can, of course, without the sexual exchange, but these kind of relationships, there is this understanding and the knowingness between these two people that the sexual exchange, when it's filled with that heart and love energy, is the highest expression of love. And that's like the most thorough way that you can actually show your love. And if you think about even just the physical, the merging, right? You literally you become one with the other person. And so this is really like what happens, right? And so a lot of you might have had transcendent experiences during sex too, where you feel like you're opening to the all or the one. And I think I'm actually going to start to wrap it up because I think this is getting a little bit long and I want to leave room for comments, questions, etc. There's going to be more videos, by the way. But just kind of take away and sit with like if you're in a partnership right now, how much can you open your heart and increase that connection? And how does that impact the quality of your sexual exchange? And if you're not in a partnership right now, that's okay. This is beautiful information for you to take with you, for you to think about what do you want your sexual exchange with somebody to look like and feel like in a future relationship. And just really think about, what is the sexual exchange with my partner, or former partners if you're not currently in a relationship? What is it bringing up inside of me? That might be, insecurities or blocks. And this is beautiful material for you to work with. So, this is what I'm talking about when I talk about higher level sexuality. It really is once we clear and heal a lot of the heaviness, the shadow is very dense. It literally can weigh us down, right? It's the pulling down kind of energy. And as you sort of transmute and integrate the shadow, it naturally will lift you up. And so in an exchange too, when you're in a partnership, both people ideally have to be doing their shadow work, not just sexually, but on all levels. If the relationship is truly about healing, growth, and evolution. So I'll leave it at that for now. There's so much more that I can share with you, but I think this is a really good introduction to the heights that are available to us. And this is deeply, deeply healing. The last thing I'll just say is that as we are creating this new paradigm of relationships, sexuality and relationships go hand in hand. We know that sexual energy is the most powerful energy within humanity. And so when it's being shared in a container of deep love, this literally can change the planet. The powers that be understand the power of sexuality, especially the orgasm, and they're using it in the complete polar opposite way right now. It's very, very powerful. Sexuality in and of itself is not good or bad, but where are we directing it? And so think about if more couples are in relationships that are highly conscious, filled with love and respect, and are truly about evolution and growing together, sexuality within that relationship is going to match it, and it will change the world. So I hope that this video helps. Would love to hear comments, questions. I've heard it all, so please don't be shy. If you want to message me privately, you can do that too. Okay, talk to y'all soon.